welcome to Frank's Futon Talk Show. My name's Frank. We're sitting on the futon and we're talking about some things. We just watched the new Dune movie. It was pretty solid. We're going to go through topic by topic, breaking it down, reviewing it, and we'll give our thoughts on it so far. Part 2 isn't out, so of course we can't fully judge the film as a whole, but we can judge the half that we've been shown. Today I got my brother Joey.
Hello.
And I got my dad.
Hi. And I'm also, this is also going to be showing on Numbskull News, which is my channel. So, there you go.
I'm just a guest here for this one. Just putting in a little bit of my 2 cents.
He has nothing.
He's here because he is a fresh mind. He is not acquainted so much with Dune as me and my dad are. So it's a more fresher take.
We're big fans of the hell's his name again? David
Lynch.
David Lynch.
I'm not necessarily... Well, yeah, that...
I'm not a big David Lynch fan, but I do like his version of Dune. You like the old version of Dune.
Old version.
He's never seen it.
I tried. I couldn't really get into it. It's a very dated movie. Not really my thing. After seeing this version, I'm tempted to go back and try the original again just to compare notes.
You
but
should.
For now, this is two already longtime fans of Dune and me.
Good dynamic to have for a video like this. So, our topic list, we're going to start with casting. I figured we should start with casting because that's like the first thing that's ever announced with the movie is who's going to be in it. So that's the first thing we should talk about.
I'll grab the cast list just in case we forget anything.
Alright. It's probably a good idea.
Yeah, because I don't know who the kid who plays Paul Atreides in the new one, but
yeah,
I like him. I did a good job.
Timothy Chalamet. I don't know how the hell you're supposed to pronounce that.
Timothy Chalamet.
Chalamet? There's no R.
I don't care.
All right.
It's either that or Chalamet. I
see.
don't think it's Chalamet.
Chalamet.
It's probably Charlemagne.
It's Chalamet.
Chalamet. There's no R.
So Timothy Chalamet.
Whatever the hell.
Timothy Shitmet. Anyways, he plays Paul Atreides in the new one. Did a great job. I thought he fit the role really well. I mean, even the hairdo was pretty fitting. It was surprising, like, how, on point the whole thing was. And the outfit, I mean, the fashion sense of these Atreides was pretty on point.
Yeah, they got the high collars and all that. It's pretty sick.
It was, like, humble, but not,
like,
not
you could tell that they're noble, but they're not, like...
They're not, like...
ostentatious.
Yeah, they're not noble to a point to where they gotta have the full, like, golden robes.
We get the big words. Ostentatious.
That's, like, the only word I know how. Like, vain. They're not vain.
Okay. Well,
there you go.
I don't know how much that has to do with your outfit, but...
sure.
Whatever. He inhabited the role very well.
Yeah.
I liked him. Zendaya? Didn't get a lot of Zendaya.
No, I
won't know. I won't be able to judge Zendaya to the second one.
I've already talked to them before. I very much like Zendaya just because I think that she's come a very long way from Disney Channel. I really liked her in Euphoria, and I'm excited to see more of her in part 2.
Euphoria sucked.
Yeah, that's not the topic for today's discussion.
But he had to put in.
Therefore, you can be wrong
well.
all you want.
She played the role well in Euphoria. She was very, very good actress.
We don't have to spend a lot of time on her because she's only been in there like 2 minutes of the movie. So
most of her runtime is in flashbacks, which makes sense. It's
kind of the point of the first part.
All right, let's skip to Oscar Isaac as Duke Lido Atreides. I actually thought this was an upgrade from the original Duke Lido Atreides. The original wasn't bad, but it was a little too hoity-toity for me. This guy brought it down to something relatable as a father. So I liked him.
I thought that his dynamic with Timothy was very good.
Like in this, there's actually good interactions and dialogue shared between.
I mean, it's really just an all-star cast. Well,
yeah, it is.
Like, next up...
Well, let's talk about who's this person. Rebecca Ferguson.
As Lady Jessica.
Lady Jessica. I thought this was a downgrade from the original. She didn't do bad. I liked her. But she didn't look like a mother.
I think that we can agree that there were no really bad actors
in
the film. There was no one that was bad.
We're talking about casting, though. We're talking about casting.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So this is a really good movie, but really, and for the most part, well cast. I thought she wasn't bad, and it didn't ruin the movie or anything for me. I like her, but I just like the original Jessica better. I thought she fit the role better. She looked more almost like royalty.
I wouldn't disagree with that. I mean, I like the writing they did for her character. But I would agree that the original actress portrayed the character better.
I thought she fit the character better. She was casted better.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that.
She wasn't really like anything stand as a standout for me personally in the film. I think that there were other actors that kind of stood out to me more. I wouldn't say that she was like an outlier per se, but she wasn't the most memorable.
Yeah.
All right, so the next in line, Jason Momoa, which to me, this is the best thing he's done since Game of Thrones. Period.
It was good.
Because Aquaman sucks. I mean, sucks.
I mean, a bad movie and a bad actor are two different things. Like
He's not a bad actor.
movie. You can have a bad movie with a great actor in it.
I don't know about great actor, but I mean, he fit that role really well.
He played it. He played it great.
And he definitely there's a lot of fight scenes in there with him. I think he works the choreography very well.
Yeah. He made a great Duncan, Idaho. I was really happy with him.
Yeah.
And the best thing he's done in his career since Game of Thrones, which is, I think it's even better than Game of Thrones.
And then did you want to talk about
yes, go on the row.
The Baron Stellan Skarsgård.
Stellan Skarsgård. He's a legend, and he did a great Baron. I thought he did I think you like him better in the original Baron.
I like him better in this one because in the original one, the Baron felt almost comedic in the way that he was written and portrayed at times. Because I get trying to make him seem like he's insane, but there's a difference between trying to make someone look like they're insane and making someone comedically insane. And originally, it was comedic in the way it was portrayed and written, whereas in this one, he plays the role much more seriously, and you get that feeling of him being mentally unstable and being sort of, fucked in the head.
In a subdued way.
He felt evil.
Yeah, because of his actions and because of the way he talked about different things and showing that he didn't give a shit when it came to taking other people's lives and doing cruel things to gain power. That was what made him more interesting.
I like, it's hard for me to decide with this one because I really like the old one because I didn't find it as comedic as you did. I found, he was supposed to be like this, not just mentally disgusting, but physically disgusting. He was all of that. The old one was. This guy, I mean, yeah, he's a little disturbing to look at, but nowhere near as bad as the original.
The original had some
and he was way more
nasty practical effects.
He was way, the volume was way more up on the original Baron when he was torturing somebody or screwing with people. He played that role in a more eccentric way. This guy is more subdued, but I like it, though.
I think Stellan Skarsgård's more, I think his more, like calm but still very menacing voice fits the character well.
Yeah.
I think that's very good.
I didn't mind the direction it went.
All right.
The next one was a surprise by me. I didn't even know he was in it till I saw him, and I had to do a double take. It took me a minute to really verify. Oh, my God, I think that's Javier Bardem, and it was. As
Stilgar.
Yeah, Stilgar. And I love the original Stilgar. I don't know if y'all ever saw Silver Bullet, but he was the werewolf in Silver Bullet on the original. Can't remember his name. Chris something. Yeah. Anyway, Javier Bardem, badass. I love him. And what was it? No Country for Old Men, where he played that freaking monster.
He's a great
actor. And great actor. So perfect as Stilgar. Love that casting.
Yeah, he's he portrays like a very good, very like dry tribal leader.
Yeah, he kind of had the same, like if you've watched that Chernobyl series, he kind of had the same feel as the Miners, where he's like, I don't give a shit what power you hold or what level you hold yourself to. I'm doing my own thing and I'm a leader. Like he has that same attitude that they have in that show, where it's like, I don't give a fuck what you gotta say. I know what's best for us. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I get you.
Yeah. Same kind of attitude, and I think that works really well for this character.
Let's see. Next up was Dave Batista. In my opinion, I could really take or leave Dave Batista. Not a very major character, at least in this part. I don't know if he plays a bigger role.
He plays Raban, and it's about the same kind of role
as the original. In the original, he was never a major character or got a lot of screen time. It was definitely I believe his brothers who was. His brother had more screen time. It was a more interesting character.
Fade.
Yeah, Fade.
Played by Sting, which there is no Fade in this one. Maybe
Probably
in
will be
part
in the
two.
second
In the
one.
second one.
Because I don't
Maybe.
imagine they would just take away his character like that. He was a pretty iconic
Well, Sting's
character.
too old now.
Well, Sting is, but the character Fade is however old you want him to be.
But you gotta get a Sting like you gotta get some cool rock star guy to be.
I really
Yeah.
could have taken or leaving Dave Batista though. I don't think it was really necessary to have him there. I know no issues with him being there as this character, but
Yeah.
I don't think it was really necessary to have him there.
So for Raban, you don't really need some. You don't need Jack Nicholson for Raban.
It felt like
Yeah.
me just putting someone on there who's already well known just so you can have his name on the cast list. For
Why
me,
not?
that decision was what it felt like.
But
It felt like a marketing ploy.
But you need a big guy who can play a role, and he's a big guy who can play a role.
He is
but
a big guy who
also,
can play a role,
he
but
does,
it
like,
wasn't
physically-
necessary. It felt
That's what I'm saying.
it felt a little bit like Hollywood dirt to me. Just a little
Well,
bit.
you're not gonna put
Maybe.
some little 5-foot dude.
He
No,
You gotta have
physically
a,
fits
you have
the
a big
role.
guy in there.
You need someone who's big. You don't need Dave Batista specifically.
Well, you gotta
They had Dave Batista because it's a big name.
But he's
Well,
got
yeah,
he's
why
got
else would you do it?
lines. You got to be able to act a little bit.
He's not a major character. You don't need this.
No.
You don't need a giant A-lister with a.
He's not an A-lister.
He's not an A-lister, but he's very well known.
He's like B-list.
Yeah, but
especially from Guardians.
he's
of
a
the
pro
Galaxy.
wrestler.
He is a pro wrestler.
Okay, it's perfect
He's
for a pro wrestler.
extraordinarily famous. All I'm saying is.
Well, the Undertaker was busy.
All I'm saying is it was an unnecessary choice that felt like something to inflate the cast.
You needed
list.
a big guy who can at least come through on screen and say some lines and be believable, and he did that.
I would agree with you if they didn't have like literally the main guy as an actor that like nobody knows. Like I don't think that was really the case due to the fact that the casting they did
Timothée Chalamet
like,
didn't really
the-
roll off the tongue.
the casting they did was primarily just do they physically fit the role, and for the people where they don't necessarily physically fit the role as to compared to the originals, it's because they portray the character better. So in his case, it wasn't about him portraying the character accurately, because in the original one, no one gave a shit about him.
You got to be a big bully.
Yeah, it was more so
he could
just
be a big
making.
bully.
It was more so just making someone that physically fit the bill.
That's
which
what he did in
definitely
WWE.
does.
He's a big bully.
I think it's a bit of both. I can see that. I can see it being a bit of both because he, as a person, I think he does fit the role pretty well. I just think it was unnecessary to have him specifically. If that makes any sort of sense.
If you can get people
Maybe.
with names in your movie, that's what you do to help sell tickets.
If it can bring
A
attention,
marketing
there's
ploy.
no reason not to.
That's what I'm saying.
It's
That's-
Hollywood.
That's
is
what
Hollywood.
they do.
It like
That's
that's
the
what
whole
it,
part of
it felt
marketing.
like. It felt unnecessary. It felt like a marketing
Everybody's
ploy to me.
unnecessary in this
That's
movie.
marketing.
Josh Brolin as Gurney, you don't need that caliber
Hey,
of a guy
he
for
did that
Gurney.
Okay,
great.
but moving on to
Moving
Josh
on to
Brolin,
Josh
I thought
Brolin
he was quite
did a
good
great
in
job.
this.
He
I
was
think he did
great.
very good in this.
But he was unnecessary. You don't need Thanos to be,
I
you know,
wouldn't.
Gurney Halleck.
I mean, I'm not
He's
going to
not a
go
huge
in
character.
there to say that it was necessary, but he was a bigger role in there than Dave Batista's.
a little bit.
Dave Batista might have a bigger role
Where
in
a
part two, we don't know.
bigger being very relative. They're both very minor characters, at least in this first part.
In the first part, that's the thing. We can't forget there is a second part where different characters are gonna have more screen time.
Yeah.
But I really like Josh Brolin. He's very good.
He did a great
I
job.
like him too.
Absolutely.
Next,
Eh,
David Chain,
I don't think there's really gonna be anyone else.
Pure
in the movie.
Divines. No, that's the guy from Dark Knight, the crazy dude
Who?
who was going to assassinate the mayor.
I don't remember. Who the
oh,
fuck that
I
is.
know who you're talking about.
He
Thomas Shift, the paranoid schizophrenic that they ended up handcuffing in the ambulance.
These are low level
Yeah, I know what you're
people.
talking about.
You know,
I
he's
Don't know that.
he's like he's I don't know, like Baron Harkonnen's right hand man a little bit. That's it.
Yeah, we're kind of going down into a rabbit hole.
So-
Here.
Yeah, the rest of them are like,
They're
know,
very, very, very minor roles.
they
Go back
fit the characters well, but the character roles that they're playing are so minor that who really gives a shit?
The mother that you're talking about.
Yeah, there's the main like the Benny Gesserit,
Is that a
the
girl?
whole the Benny Gesserit, right?
Yeah,
Okay, so the lady they got
Main
to
witch
play
lady.
the main old lady chick who's like, you know, disturbing.
The one that
the
pops
one with the
up in all-
box.
the one that pops.
One
up in all
whose
the
name
trailers
we
with
can
the
never
box.
remember.
The one with the box. Okay.
the one who's like pain.
Yeah. What's in the box? Pain. Here's a needle for you, bitch. Anyway.
Used heroin needles.
Yes. So it threatens the Duke's son with a used heroin needle.
The poison is HIV.
Yes. Rubbed in poo. Anyway, that lady, the one from the old Dune, I like better. I thought she was there's a little more substance to her. Not that this new one didn't do bad. She's fine. Maybe you get a little bit more of that substance in the second part.
I put them both on the same tier simply because the new one had more interesting dialogue to me. The old one, there was nothing she really said that was memorable to me. Like, I don't remember most of the shit she did or said. I just remember how she looked, which looks wise, that's
more intimidating.
That's what carried her role. With the new one, she doesn't look quite as intimidating as the original.
She had a distinctive voice too, than the old one.
But the new one doesn't have a distinctive voice or anything. But the dialogue, she pulls it off very well. She's very good at portraying the character in terms of dialogue and how she, what's the word I'm looking for? How she executes it? No.
Portrays?
No, I already said.
Conveys.
Habits?
Conveys, I suppose, yeah. The way she conveys the character, the way she speaks, it's like it all fits better. Like, everything she says is more memorable and more impactful.
Well, do you like her? Because you don't know about the old one, but do you like the new one?
You
alright?
She was a character.
She fit? You didn't hate her?
I didn't like or dislike. She wasn't overly memorable. It was a memorable scene. I wouldn't say that she was a memorable actress or that she was a memorable character.
She wasn't the reason that scene is memorable.
Fair.
The scene's memorable because of the box.
Fair.
All right.
What's our next point? We go through the cast, now we're doing a bunch of people that no one knows.
Next topic we're getting into is very important for Dune, that being the music. First of all, he didn't hear it, but I heard it very clearly because the theme has stuck with my mind, body, and soul. Every atom contained the theme. The Sandworm theme from the original, done by Toto, because the original soundtrack was all done by Toto, and it was great because of that. They had a little tease of the Sandworm theme and part of the movie, but we never got the full theme, so I'm expecting it.
It's very possible.
There's a very small tease of it.
That could have been just your mind playing tricks on you.
No, I heard it.
Like you wanted to hear it.
You can say whatever the fuck you want.
Hey, all this cussing.
You
bring
cuss
it down.
all the time.
You
cuss all the time. I can throw
the F word.
I can throw it in all the time I want. They allow F words past the first 30 seconds. I know my rules, okay? So I know how to avoid it. But here's the point.
Sorry, my dad has sensitive ears.
The music in this one is good. They did a good score. I liked it. A little stereotypical, using a lot of the Middle Eastern themes and the lady.
For the
it's a little on the nose.
For the percussion, I can agree with you. But for
everything,
for the brass swelling sections of the score,
that's just
were phenomenal.
Toto's scores was way better.
I can't speak to that. But speaking as someone who's new to the Dune theme, it gives a very good otherworldly feel to it. It's very impactful. It's exciting. It's not flashy.
I thought it was
good.
I thought it was fine. The original was just way more distinctive. That was the freaking Dune music.
I do recall bits and pieces of the Sandworm theme from Dune, and I do remember thoroughly enjoying that specific piece.
All of the original sound, like all the original music that they brought into this movie was good, but it doesn't stick with you in the same way that the original Toto soundtrack stuck.
Bring back the original in part 2. Give us a taste.
Which they probably will.
Have to
the
make
second,
it
at least at the end.
The second one is probably
give us some
gonna
fan
be more...
service. That's all. It's all fan service.
Well,
that's all it would be.
Some fan service.
Well, who's going to see Dune for real? It's the fans of Dune. So give us.
I'm not a fan of Dune, and I went to see it, and I loved it.
Because we drug you along.
No, I wanted to see it on my own. Actually,
all right. Well,
you just provided me the avenue.
Yeah.
Because I heard good things about it, and I'm a sci-fi fan.
Look, just give the original fans a little service. Give us.
They did, and the second one is going to give us more.
Give us more.
Well, the second one is going to...
Because I didn't hear it.
You can't say that they will, they might not.
Maybe I blinked.
I will pop it up at some point. You blinked and you didn't... Okay. Your ears blinked, I guess.
Blinked.
So, but
blinked and missed it.
The second one, I think, is going to have a little more of that fan service that you're looking for, while still maintaining some of the original rewrites and
That's
whatnot.
fine. Just give me some, give me a taste.
Which is not the next topic. The next topic is actually special effects, which special effects, we can go into the quality of it and everything, but given that this is a major film, I think the special effects looking good and realistic is like a bare minimum expectation. So why not get into the more stylized aspects of it, like the ship design, the redesigning of the worms, and all that kind of stuff. Not so much the nerdy shit like the fluid simulations and stuff. We could talk about that all day.
I do want to touch on that though,
because it's really good.
Because there are some shots in there that were very visual effects heavy that really stuck with me.
Yeah,
they're very good. Also, spoilers? Is that okay? Is that safe to say?
This is a review for fans. Spoil it. It doesn't matter. I'll put a spoiler warning at the beginning.
Okay, cool.
It's on HBO Max. Go see it, dumbass.
Watch this shit.
It's good.
Idiot.
You won't regret
watching. Go to the
watching
theater.
It.
Go to the damn theater. Get COVID.
Wipe my ass with COVID. Anyway, the CG was, to me, very subtle. It wasn't like we had a discussion before this where that was one of the problems I had with the Star Wars prequels. It was like CG'd out the ass and it looks stupid. After a while, it just looks like a big video game with people sitting in front of a green screen.
There's a point where it gets way too in your face, where it's just everywhere.
Not to mention that at the time,
looked very
they didn't
natural.
have the technology to be pulling off most of the CG they were trying to do, so it just comes off as sort of like a Play-Doh-y clay look.
Well, even these days, you can do too much CGI. This everything looked very natural.
Like for the year 2141 or 10141.
10121.
Something like that.
Get it right.
It's like over 10,000 years.
Considering it's 10,000 years in the future,
it's a long ass time.
The visual effects felt very grounded to me.
Fucking nerds. Anyways, special effects. The ship design way more memorable than the original stuff. Like the ships in this, like the big spherical ships with the legs that come down and all that stuff. Like straight up, it kind of looks like something out of G-Force almost. Which I hate to make that reference, but it's pretty cool.
That's shameful.
It kind of does though.
They felt
They
felt to me almost like, aside from the Dragonfly ships, they felt like the bigger actual landers and stuff. They felt more like almost like flying temples to me.
Yeah.
They were,
it kind of sold that religious undertone a little bit.
The only thing cool about the big ships was the scale. The scale was gigantic. It was cool.
They sold the
scaling was great.
Very well.
The design of them is kind of generic.
Because you'd have these massive fortress-like ships, and then you'd see them compared to the gates that they have to come through when warping from one area to another. And these gates, the ships that are absolutely massive when you see them on the planet, are little specks compared to this burrito-shaped warp gate, and it's just insane scaling that really pulls off.
It's not a warp gate; it's a ship all to itself.
I mean, it's essentially a gate.
There's one shot in there in particular that really stuck with me, and it was
the mothership.
There were a bunch of invading ships coming through the I'll call it a gate because I don't know actually what it is, but it was a shot from the surface looking up at the ship and seeing all of them emerging from this larger ship. And you can see the atmospheric dispersion of it. It really sells the scale to me, and I thought that was a very impressive shot that they pulled off.
But the best ships were, like you said, were the Dragonfly ships.
Dragonfly ships.
Those were small really ships. Cool. The design for those was phenomenal. I like that.
Not to mention, it feels like something that's a little more grounded in reality. Like it's something where it's like we probably would never make anything like that, but you probably could if you really wanted to.
Like if nothing else, it looks.
You'd have to have one hell of a stabilizer.
You would.
It'd be like it'd be a bad, uncomfortable ride.
We're taking off with
Not to mention the burn out the servos so quickly.
Yeah.
But 10,000 years, they figured it out.
They got
some comfortable ass beds.
Probably.
Maybe they actually made the waterbed work.
A waterbed where you're actually in the water and you don't drown.
I can't get up.
It's like that scene from Star Wars where he's in the jelly. It's just every bed's a jelly tube.
You want to go into the worms?
Oh, the worms. Yes, we should get into the worms.
We're still talking about effects.
Absolutely.
Well, the worms is that's a visual effect.
Yeah,
Worms
no,
are
I
all
said we're
visual
talking about
effects.
effects.
Absolutely,
So
absolutely.
worms fit that.
All right.
And we also have to go into the logic behind these visual effects because I think that's also very
I
interesting.
really like the actor that played the worm.
I hate that.
It's
you
probably
did
what a
that.
digital.
I like the original
I
worms
actually
better.
don't know. It might not be what.
I'm going to
Don't
explain
crucify
why
me.
I think the new ones are better in a lot of ways. Here's why. First of all, the way they designed the mouths and with all like the needle-like teeth and everything,
That was cool.
that looked sick. That was every shot you see of the worm just up front and center looks great. Looks amazing.
Looked
Kinda
like a
generic to me.
massively. It looked like a massive
It's a
upgrade
worm.
on
If
a
you go over
Sarlacc
the
pit.
top, it's
It was
gonna
awesome.
look ridiculous.
It looked a little bland to me.
It looked how a worm should look. Now, if we're
How
getting
a worm should look.
Well,
like a worm,
I think we can kind of like suspend that when we're
Sandworms
talking
and
about
Beetlejuice
a
look
worm
like
that
better.
is quote
okay,
up to 400 meters in length.
it looks how I would expect it to look on a planet like this. Is that fair?
I like the way the original worms look better, but this one's
They look
fine.
alright.
I'm not saying like you. It's the first time you saw it. How do you think they look?
I
like
mean, in terms of technique and like the way that they made them, it's flawless because the visual effects were flawless in every way,
Yeah.
pretty much. As far as like the actual design of them, I really really like how they almost seem to liquefy the sand as they move. Like
Yeah.
there was that one shot that I told you guys about that I mentioned to you guys when we were talking outside. There's one shot in particular where a worm is kind of like um almost like is surfaced and looking down at two of the main characters. Here's a thumper in the distance and goes and dives back into the sand, and whenever the sand crashes up, it looks like water.
Yeah.
I think that the effect of it almost liquefying the sand around it is really really cool.
Yeah,
It's a
'cause
very nice touch.
It shows how much it really affects the environment around it just from its sheer size. Like the way the sand behaves is entirely different when interacting with this massive creature.
That was the best worm shot in either the old one or the new one. That was the best worm shot.
It was great.
It's just the design of the worm. I like the older design better. I do like the new one, and if this has been the only Dune that I've ever seen, I would really like these worms.
Now,
No.
what's something that stands out to you for the? Sorry, I didn't mean. But what's something that you think stands out more in the original as opposed to the new?
What are you talking about?
Like you said that you like the design of the old worms better. What's something that you like more about the old?
I like their mouth. It's not just a circle. It's like 3 parts that come apart.
Okay.
Yeah.
I kind of like that. I like how you can kind of see way down into its throat.
They do have a little
like
bit
that.
of those like segmentations in terms of it, and as opposed to it being a circle.
But
Whenever you have
it's
that that
much-
shot where it's kind of up,
Yeah. It's just
you
much
see a
more
little bit of
shallow.
those segments. It's just not as
The
pronounced.
the
as it
original
was in
ones, the
original.
way the mouth shape worked was a little more like you ever seen
They're sphincters.
the shape of it is kind of like in Jumanji with the plants that open up to the mouths that shoot out shit. It's the same kind of deal where it's like the 3 lips that split apart and then it has the mouth inside. And it was an interesting little design, but the new one it still kind of has that, but at a much more shallow level. Like it's not quite as noticeable, which I thought was fine. It wasn't like a huge
Yeah, it was
deal.
fine.
The teeth in the new one almost look
fine.
like
Yeah.
like a whale's teeth.
Yeah,
almost.
and that's
thought
that
that was
I
really
think
cool.
is a great transition into my point with the new ones. I like the way the worms, like with the almost like fluid like behavior of the sand when they move through it, the way the teeth look, it all makes it feel very much like they hunt in a similar way to like humpback whales, where every time you see that it's got its prey in position, the way it locks them down and makes it to where it's basically guaranteed to have its food is whenever it dives underneath and comes up towards the prey, and whenever it does that, the sand vibrates and moves and shifts in such a way to where it's almost like quicksand, where they just get stuck and sunk in position,
Yeah, that was
and
cool.
then it comes up and swallows them. In the same way that with a humpback whale, it'll like surround a school of fish with bubbles to trap them in place to where they can't move from that spot, and then come up underneath and eat it like that. That's why they come up out of the water like that. That's why they do that whole thing. And the worms in this function in a similar way. They just don't completely launch out of the sand. And I feel like having that included detail, it makes it to where the worms feel like a very grounded, real creature because they have a clear technique and hunting pattern.
Oh, and the shields and lasers as well.
Yeah.
I think the way that they did the shields in this,
The shielding is definitely an upgrade from the original.
Yeah.
It definitely looked like something out of 1983 from the original.
Yeah.
So that was not good.
But also the behavior of the shields and the way they're explained works way better. Like how specifically slow moving projectiles, can actually move through the shield, but anything going at higher velocities can't pass through. So you'll see the way that they counter that is by using swords. That's how it's explained that everyone is using bladed weapons rather than, big ass laser guns and shit. And it's why whenever they use missiles to attack these big structures that have shields around them, the missiles are designed to slow down right before they come in contact with the shield, so that way it can pass through and then speed up at the last moment and make that explosive contact.
And another really cool touch with a lot of those shots was that the shield that's generated around them contains the explosion slightly.
Contains the explosion until the shield disperses. Yeah, it was really cool.
And again, with those shields, they're in terms of it being, it's like this super futuristic, crazy thing with the shields and the lasers, but they're not flashy with any of it. It's still very grounded visual effects, and I really appreciate that. It's not like Star Wars where you have these super bright lasers jetting across the screen. It's very grounded. It's not flashy.
It feels like that's how it actually look within their reality.
Yeah.
Next topic is the biggest topic of any movie, that being story and the rewrites in this case. Like, differences from the original, what did they change that you thought was good, what did they change you thought was bad, all that kind of stuff. That's what this entire last section is for, and then we get into the obvious little rating bit.
Well, you ain't seen Jack, so what's your thought of this?
As someone coming into this dry, I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was the story was, I wouldn't say it's anything like super crazy. They presented it in such a way that it was a lot of information portrayed in a very digestible.
Yeah,
which I very, as someone who's coming to this very dry, I appreciate that a lot, because I was able to understand everything really well. And I think that they really sold the world, the universe that they built very well. I was invested in the characters. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's like in the original Dune movie, they were trying to pack so much exposition, so much plot into one movie, that if you got like the extended version that had the narration at the beginning, it felt like 30 minutes of some woman talking on screen about all this random shit that you don't know about.
Well, it's not random. They're trying to set up the entire universe in a.
It's not random, but it's hard to keep track of with everything they're saying and trying to show you. And it's realistically like maybe 5 or 10 minutes that they narrate this, but it feels like 30 because it's literally just them explaining and breaking down what you need to know beforehand. Whereas in this movie, it basically just gives you the very, very foundation of what you need to know. Just everything that you absolutely need, and then cutting out all the bullshit of like, they don't need to know this yet until maybe later. So it makes it to where if you're new to Dune, you can watch this, get only what you need, and then get into the cool shit.
It wasn't very exposition heavy.
Yeah.
They kind of let you figure things out, and it explained where it was absolutely needed, but for the most part, they kind of let you feel things out. I like that a lot.
And that was the big upgrade from the old Dune to this Dune. This is what this Dune got right that the old one really couldn't, because of time constraints. Only one movie, only supposed to be a 2-hour movie.
Yeah.
And this is way too much shit to pack in a 2-hour movie. So
yeah.
One of the ways they did it in the old one, which always, even though I love the original David Lynch version, but all the inner monologue that you can hear, everyone's thoughts, I never liked it that much. Not at all. Like a few times it's okay, but throughout the whole movie, from every character, it gets to be a pain in the ass, and it's something they had to lean on to get the exposition out. In this movie, some of that stuff that was inner monologue is actually spoken and said, which was nice and refreshing. It's more natural. easier to watch, and it's easier to digest what you're listening to. And they found better ways to do it. And I thought that was a monstrous upgrade. And for instance, there's terms from the book they use in the old movie, like we were talking about earlier, like Landstrad, which is like the entirety of the known universe. They call it the Landstrad. In this, they call it, in the new one, they call it the Imperium, which you know what an empire is, so it makes it more relatable. So it's not another word you're trying to figure out what the hell are they talking about. So instead, they change it to something that people can kind of figure out without a bunch of exposition, and it saves you a lot of bullshit. It saves a lot of time, and I thought they did a great job with that.
Is another thing that them calling it the Imperium also kind of helps sell the power of the Emperor. Even though the Emperor isn't actually in the movie, you still feel this like underlying power with this person.
Yeah. So he's like overarching, even though he's not even in it. He was in the original, like throughout the whole thing, beginning to end. I mean, not like every scene or anything, but he's in it.
But he was just kind of like a little Weasley character.
Yeah, it seemed like they cut his nuts off, and like the Navigators had control over him, the Bene Gesserit had control over him.
He was a pawn. He didn't
a little
really
bit of a pawn, yeah.
He didn't have a leader role like he does in this one.
In this one, without him even having a scene, I mean, I'm sure he's going to be in the second one, because they're kind of building him up like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can tell he's got power. He's got stroke. He's definitely a ball-full character.
More of an iron-fisted ruler.
He's got power, real power. He's not just a pawn.
Bigger nuts.
Yeah, he's not just a pawn, which is really good and solid in this flick.
It was a good rewrite.
There's one thing this is something that we actually didn't talk about outside, but there were a couple little like comedic scenes that were just kind of thrown in there, like with them the
spit.
Yeah, this like they were spitting. It was like offering moisture. It's not like a disrespectful thing.
Yeah,
that was a funny scene. I do appreciate that they didn't fill the movie with those little comedic scenes. I like that they only had a couple of them in there because they were throwaway, but they were added in such a way that it was actually like good. They didn't fill it to the brim with that like a lot of Hollywood movies, like Marvel movies. That some of them are just overly quick. This one wasn't that. They grounded it in the story. They didn't fill it with comedic scenes.
And now I will say this. So far, Dune has been pretty successful. But I will say overall, this would not be a successful movie unless it was a known and beloved property.
Maybe.
It was because it was done really well. Because that's what's bringing people to the theater. Right now, if you go and watch this and you don't know jack shit about Dune, and you're not really a sci-fi nut, you're going to go into this and you're going to be like, okay, there's some cool stuff here, but there's not a lot of action. There's some action, but not a ton. And there's not a ton of exposition. It's smartly done. But I think, for you going into it, completely cold, don't know shit about Dune, and you really like it, that's because you're a big, you love science fiction. Sci-Fi's if you're a person who's not into science fiction, you're probably not going to like it.
I think honestly, like
it's
the cast would have been
for
enough
the
to draw.
sci-fi fans. For
sure. Yeah,
I think the cast would have been enough to draw a lot of people in.
Yeah, but everything that's going on, you'd be like, oh,
it's an unconventional.
Where's the
Movie.
lightsaber?
It's a very unconventional sci-fi movie, but I like that.
Where's the Enterprise?
I'm much more a fan of the unconventional.
Where are my
sci-fi.
Vulcans?
Yeah. This is more fitting to someone who's more hardcore into sci-fi. This is not for someone who's like, casually gets into like Star Wars, Star Trek type shit every now and then. This is not your speed.
Or
now,
Doctor Who.
Doctor Who's good.
Doctor Who sucks. Anyway,
I think
he sucks.
Spicy takes here that we won't get into. Rage in the comments.
British jackass.
Doctor Who's good. We'll talk about that later. Anyways,
you guys can debate that all you want.
Last topic. This is the most important one when discussing Dune. That is, which is better, the original Dune or the new Dune? So far, we can't say overall because part 2 is now. But from what we've seen so far and the promise that we feel we have for the next movie, which one do you prefer? At least for the beginnings of it.
I can't even judge that. Not until I see the second part, because part 2 might suck ass. They might screw everything up.
Is it setting up to be at least living up to the original? Would you say?
they've done some things better. There's some things I like in the old one a little bit better, but I think overall they're doing a really good job. I usually, remakes, you can almost count on every remake sucking nuts.
Because it's usually just done for money and that's it.
Yeah.
This one, you can tell the people making it actually care about the source material and are trying to make something that will live up to fans' expectations, which is something...
Well, the director is a fan.
Yeah.
The director's a fan. That helps.
That does help.
That helps a lot. And you can see it. He really cares. So far, I'm happy with it.
I will say, I think the only judgment I'm going to make comparing the two, I think this one has a better, smoother start than the original movie did, especially since they couldn't really even decide how to start that.
Well, they had to go in and do a whole reshoot.
Yeah.
That's why you had the chick doing an exposition dump for like 7 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, literally.
That's kind of what scared me off from the original, was the start of it.
And that's the only bad
They
part
had like
of that movie.
hand-drawn planets, like some kid in a kindergarten class drew here's Caladan.
Yeah.
It's like, what? Like, they didn't even bother to go in there and actually give you a real planet and design. They didn't have time. We're going to do this exposition dump. Let's show them a shitty kindergarten planet.
So I'd say it started off better.
Way better.
We're waiting for part 2 to decide whether or not,
overall,
New Dune is going to be better. Which so far,
it's giving me hope.
So far, I think this one is probably going to be like on the same level for me personally, maybe. Just because mostly nostalgia, if I'm being honest. But, you never know until you see the next one.
If I do come back to help review the second part, I'll probably watch the old Dune in between, so I can actually draw some comparisons.
You need to.
Yeah.
At this point, I think I will. I think I will watch the original.
The whole thing.
Because like I said, the beginning, it starts off rough. Like, the pacing's not great in the beginning. But once you get past that starting point, it's great.
Once you hit the Toto theme, then you're in.
Then you shit your pants.
Then you're in.
Now, final things.
Final thing.
Your potato rating of the movie. This is for the audience. The way I'm going to do ratings for anything I ever rate, whatever it is I make fun of Rotten Tomatoes a lot when I talk about how I think their review systems are shitty because they're full of shit and they're obviously paid to make a lot of these reviews. I like to make fun of them with the potato rating, where you compare the movie to any potato dish or kind of potato you want. You got to give a reasoning, but you can compare it to any potato. It's just, how would you picture this? What kind of potato could you picture yourself shoving down your gullet if this is, what you're consuming?
Vodka is the supreme potato.
True.
For you.
Okay.
It's a good potato.
It's a waffle fry. Unsalted. Good.
Unsalted.
It's good.
There was a bit of salt.
It's a good.
The salt's on standby.
Can I finish my freaking potato rating? It's good. It just could be better. Here's the thing. It's a part 1. I can't give it a 10. There's only one movie ever that was to be continued, and I give it a 10. And that's Back to the Future 2. There is no other part 1 or to be continued that I can give anything higher than a 7. So 7's good. 7's really good. It's a solid start. 7.
Would you say a 10 on the potato scale is like fully seasoned steak fries?
Yes.
In his terminology, yes. For me, a 10 would be more like fully loaded baked potato. This movie, to me, was kind of like homemade mashed potatoes hold the brown gravy. That's kind of what this was like.
That's what I said, hold the salt.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Give me shit about salt.
I mean, it's got a little
You're holding
salt.
the brown gravy?
It's got a little salt.
Bastard.
Okay, it has white gravy.
What about you?
prefer
What
brown
potato?
gravy.
I'll give it my attempt at trying to make Pawpaw's fried potatoes.
That's accurate.
So like I don't make it nearly as good, but
I don't think
it's good, but not as good as it could.
Yeah,
That's it.
we're waiting to see if it's going to become great.
For me, the Pawpaw's fried potatoes would be a little higher than the waffle fry.
Fully enjoyed.
Yeah.
Very, very much enjoyed. I am excited to see the second part whenever it comes out in 5 years.
That was the thing it did really good, is that it's
been 5 years.
Whether you are a new viewer or you're someone who's been waiting on this for a while, like, this movie did a great job at getting you hooked and making you excited to see part 2. Which is why it got greenlit. Because people want to see it.
Which is shocking to me, because this is a subtle movie. Like I said, this isn't Flash Gordon. This isn't going all throughout the universe shooting green aliens and shit.
Michael Bay had directed
most of it
this,
takes
wouldn't
place
be
on
Yeah.
this one planet.
Isn't Michael Bay like swooping by?
Massive
And all
lens
that
flares in every shot.
Oh.
Every surface is reflective.
No, I actually didn't see any lens flares.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's a lie. In the flashbacks.
Yeah, Michael
there's
Bay-
there's some lens flares.
But
in the
that
flashbacks.
makes sense.
I can see
Or
Michael
in the
Bay
visions.
with the
rather.
explosion triggers. Big ass titties.
Because I say that was the main thing I hated when people talk about the new Star Trek movies. That was the main thing I hated. That's the main thing I use to make fun of most sci-fi films now. Is the use of lens flares.
You just don't like J.J.
blinding.
Abrams.
I fucking hate J.J. Abrams.
J.J.
okay?
Abrams is a joke. He destroyed freaking Star Wars. What an asshole. The first Star Trek he did was good, though. The first one was good.
It's alright.
After that, it went kind of downhill.
I like the original.
I like the original movies better.
Yeah. The original series is.
Come on. Wrath of Khan.
Dune's good.
Dune is good. Go
Dune
see
is a
it.
good movie. Watch it. If you don't want to see it in theaters, check it out on HBO.
Don't be an asshole watching it on HBO. Go to the movies.
Unless you can't. Then
Stick
watch
your
it on
COVID
HBO.
up your asshole and go to the movies.
But if you can't watch it on HBO, or
there's
pirate
people
it, or
that-
pirate it,
there's
Don't
kids.
pirate it.
use
support,
Pirate Bay.
support the
Break the law.